Are you afraid of success? I know that sounds like the most ridiculous question, and the first time that I heard it and someone actually phrased it to me in that way, I was so confused. I was very flustered because my thoughts were always that I was afraid of failure. But when it really got down to it, I realized I was, in fact, actually afraid of success. So today in this video, we are actually going to go through 10 different ways that you can specifically pinpoint really battling that fear of success. First, we're going to talk about how you might figure out whether or not you are afraid of success. And then we will go through those 10 ways and really try to combat that so that you are no longer allowing the fear of success to hold you back from the goals that you're trying to achieve. Hey there, my name is Lisa and I'm so glad you decided to click on this video. I cannot wait to dive into this topic today with you. It is something that really helped change my overall mindset and finally got me from being in a place of being stuck to finally taking action and moving forward again. Because I certainly got to this place where I was no longer making progress and I did not understand why. So if you're new to my channel, I am all about goals. I'm about planning. I am very focused on including my faith within that. And I'm all about living a slow, beautiful life. So we're gonna bring that to you today. So let's get started. So first things first, let's discuss what does it even mean to be fearful of success? Like I said at the start of this video, it seems almost crazy to even be afraid of that. Like, why would we be afraid of seeing success, of achieving our goals, of doing what we say, what we claim that we want to do in this life? And a lot of times what it comes down to is you're afraid of change. You are afraid of what others will think. You are afraid of achieving those goals and then being at a place where you're like, well, now what? Maybe you're someone like me who loves working towards goals. And so really like deep down subconsciously, you're thinking like, oh my gosh, if I achieve these, then what will I do? What will I work towards? But let me assure you, those things can all be dealt with. Those mindsets are something that truly boil down to fear, and fear is absolutely something that we can work with. So if you relate with that, let's dive into 10 different ways that you can start combating that thought process and really start making progress towards your goals and the things that you want to achieve in life again. Tip number 1. We have got to acknowledge the fear. So I just gave you a couple of examples of why you might be fearful of success, and maybe one or a couple of those things resonated with you. But that has got to be our starting place. We have to first and foremost recognize we are in fact afraid of success. I know it's so much easier to think that we are afraid of failing, but if we really step back and think about it, we fail all of the time. Right? So we're actually really familiar with failing. We have been since the moment we were little children, when we were learning to walk and we fell down and we would get back up again. We have made mistakes, all of us, throughout our lifetimes. And while in the moment, maybe it was really embarrassing and maybe something that was very like crippling, we made it through and we've come out on the other side. So the thing that many of us though aren't as familiar with, even though we would like to be, is the success part. But we've got to figure out what part are we actually fearful of. So the examples that I gave you earlier, are you afraid of success because you're afraid of change? For example, I live in a really small farmhouse, and the idea of moving out of this farmhouse, we have lived here for 10 years at this point, is a little scary at times because we are about to break ground, actually breaking ground today as I record this video, it's happening. We are breaking ground on a home that is going to be, number 1, ours, but number 2, bigger, more to take care of, and something that even my imposter syndrome at times is like, do you even deserve that? So my fear of success could come in that very specific scenario, in the sense of like, do I deserve that? Am I worthy of that? Like, that kind of a thing could come into my frame of mind, and that could create a fear within me. Then I could also maybe spiral that into being like, oh my gosh, well, what will people think? I've lived in this house forever, a much smaller home. Will people judge me for this home that we're building? Will people judge me because of the decisions that I make to decorate this home? And I mean, we are doing everything. So then there's fear that can come in that way, right? And then there's also like, oh my gosh, we've worked for 10 years to make this dream of building our dream home come true. Once we have that, then what? Right? So all of these things could be really fearful, that could keep me from wanting to achieve success because there's so much unknown on the other side. Meanwhile, I'm comfortable living in this farm home. I'm comfortable living here like I have for the last 10 years. I know what living here is like, right? So I hope that example makes sense. That might not be specifically what you're dealing with, but I wanted to give something that's more concrete. I'm very big into those concrete examples. So what is it for you? What is it that you've been working towards for weeks, months, maybe even years at this point that you continue to not see the success in? And can you boil that down and ask yourself, am I afraid of what will happen if I achieve the goal? And how you can really start to boil that down and ask is, maybe you have a weight loss goal, for example, and you continue to not achieve that weight loss goal. Maybe it's not that you're afraid of failure, because if you've continued to not achieve that weight loss goal time and time again, technically you've failed, right? And that is not the language that I use. My work is all about the area of health and wellness. But my point with that is, if you haven't achieved it yet, it's either achieving or failing, right? So you're already familiar with not reaching that goal. So the difference might actually be that you're afraid of what's going to happen if I do achieve that goal. Maybe you're somebody who's really tight on money and you're like, well, if I achieve that goal, I'm going to have to get a whole new wardrobe because I have a lot of weight that I want to lose and none of my clothes are going to fit me anymore if I lose the 50, 100 pounds, right? So, it could be something as simple as that. And I know that might sound like, oh my gosh, I'm not worried about it because I don't want to buy a new wardrobe. But maybe that is the thing, right? Maybe it's because you're afraid that if you lose the weight and then people see you, they're going to be like, wow, you've lost a lot of weight. Which then in the back of your mind, you're going to be thinking, well, then now they're thinking about the fact that I had a lot of weight to lose. And so now I've lost all this weight. And so then they're going to be judging me for being the bigger person. Like, our minds can spiral into so many crazy, crazy things. I've been helping women in the area of health and wellness for 6.5 years at this point. And I have helped countless women who have lost over 50 pounds. And when they get past that mark, sometimes they will hit this plateau or this place of fear, not because they don't want to keep working towards losing that weight, but because when they look at themselves in the mirror, they still see the woman who hadn't lost the weight yet. They're not seeing the new version of themselves that is now 50 pounds less, and they're not understanding why people maybe are treating them differently or who are complimenting them or whatever. And so now they're feeling awkward and fearful that they're getting attention that maybe they once didn't get because people are recognizing and being like, wow, you look amazing. You've lost 50 pounds. I can tell you've lost a lot of weight. How do you feel? You have so much energy. Maybe previously that woman was someone who kind of hung back and didn't really get much attention. And now all of a sudden they are. So again, that fear, it does not matter what the fear is. You don't have to justify it, but we do want to acknowledge it and make sure that we're aware of whatever it is so that we can move forward. Tip number 2 goes right along with that, and that is identifying the root cause. So right as we were finishing up with tip number 1, we were getting to the point of once we've identified the fear, then we can really dig deep and figure out what that root cause is. Going back to the health example, maybe you grew up as the gal who was always the bigger friend. I have friends who have identified with that. I work with women who have identified with that and who have said, I was always the bigger friend. I was always known as the bigger friend. So for them, it would be very, very logical and make a lot of sense that losing weight for them would mean that they might not be the bigger friend anymore, which in a sense could be scary because they would be losing their identity. Does that make sense? Or maybe you are a woman that has a group of friends that your favorite thing to do with them is to go out to eat. Maybe you like to hit the Chinese buffet or go to the movies and eat all the popcorn or whatever it might be. And you're afraid that if you start on this health journey and you see success, it's going to mean that maybe you aren't interested in doing some of those things anymore, which might mean that you now are missing out on those opportunities to spend time with those friends, right? So we've got to figure out what the fear is in the first place and then figure out what is the root cause and what's deep down holding you back from actually taking action and seeing the success that you truly, truly do want. The next piece of this and tip number 3 is going to be challenging the negative beliefs. So maybe not only are you fearful of success, which we've addressed at this point, but now you might have some negative thoughts Going back to the examples that I've already given, if you were always known as the bigger friend, you might have negative beliefs that you can't, or maybe people have made jokes, or maybe you've made jokes about yourself your whole life that you are the bigger friend, that you are the bigger gal, and you've made jokes at your own expense. Deep down, those are negative beliefs. So it is time to challenge those. It is time to start really recognizing that you are capable of so much more. You know that deep down. And I think that that is the part that scares you. You know deep down you are capable of more. You know deep down, though, also, it's going to take a lot of work to make the changes that you say you're after. So we've got to challenge those negative beliefs, though, if we're ever going to truly make that progress. Next up, in tip number 4, we are going to figure out whatever our goals are that we're going to do and we're going to work on to achieve that success, and we're going to break them down into smaller steps. Now, I do have other videos right here on this channel that are very, very helpful when it comes to breaking down goals. I have an entire goal setting course. All of that is linked below, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, but I do want to give an example of, let's say you want to buy a car. Let's say this car is $15,000. Okay, we're just going to throw it out there as an example. That's a good car. That's a very good car. You don't have $15,000. Maybe you don't even have enough money for the down payment. Okay, so instead of looking at the huge goal of, oh my gosh, I don't have money for a $15,000 car, but I want this $15,000 car, that is my goal. Instead of looking at that huge goal, we're going to break it down. And our first step is going to be really focusing on just making that down payment, right? And so then we're going to take it a step further. You're going to make a budget. Like, you're going to break that goal down so much to figure out, okay, what could I put towards a car right now? Because not only are you going to have to pay towards the car, you're also going to have to pay for insurance, and you might have to pay for an oil change when you first get it, or new tires, or whatever that might look like. So you're going to have to break that down, but that means you're going to need to take a step and look at your budget. Look at what you can currently afford. Look at what you can currently put away into savings to work towards that down payment, so that you can put that down payment eventually, and then eventually you're going to have that monthly payment, right? And then you're going to have to decide, do you need to get another part-time job? Do you need to work towards a raise at your work or ask for a raise? Do you maybe want to look for a different job? Whatever that looks like, but you're going to have to take your bigger goal and break that down into something smaller, because a lot of times the fear of success can also just come from, that goal is far too big. There's no way I am going to achieve that, even though deep down I know I could achieve that, but that's a lot of work. I know I could put in the work, but I'm not sure I'm ready or willing to do that because I haven't taken the time ultimately to think through what it's actually going to take step by step, little by little, to get there. This next step, which is step number 5, is so good because this is where you're going to visualize it. So not only did we just talk about in step 4 breaking down the goal, but now you're going to visualize what it's going to take. I have a very, very specific example of this because I did pay off my car years ago. It was January of 2020, right before the world shut down, and I was ready to step away from my teaching position. I was putting in my letter of resignation. I put it in January 19th of 2020, which meant May of 2020 would be my last month in the classroom. I owed $8,000, just under $8,000. It was like $7,900 something, just under $8,000 left on my car. And I wanted that car paid off by the time summer hit. So I had 4 months to do it: February, March, April, and May. So $8,000 divided by 4 months, I needed to come up with $2,000 extra dollars per month. At the time, I had only been paying $250 a month towards my car payment plus insurance. So I knew that I needed to come up with an extra $1,750. Now, at the time, I had already started my health and wellness business. I was 3.5 years into my health and wellness business. At that time, I was making a good extra amount of money, but it wasn't quite enough. It wasn't quite that extra $2,000 that I needed. So I had to figure out a solution to come up with the extra income that I needed each month. None of this included my teaching income at the time. That all went towards my bills. So my extra income 100% came from building my health and wellness business, minus the expenses that I needed to put towards that health and wellness business. And then I still needed something else. So at that time, I chose to start doing some online teaching. The company that I worked for, I don't think it actually functions the right way anymore, but if you've ever heard of VIP Kid, I started teaching with VIP Kid. I knew I had to visualize this is going to take a lot of work. I spent a lot of time working, now 3 jobs. So what I would do, because of the time change, I would wake up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, most mornings, sometimes 2:30, and I would teach anywhere from 1 to 5 classes. The classes were 25 minutes each, and I would start teaching at about 3 or 3:30 in the morning, and I would teach like 3, 3:30, 4, 4:30, or 3, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, but I would, because for them, I think that was like their evening time, like their after school time. So I would teach first thing in the morning. Then I would shower, or I would do my workout, I would get ready for the day, and I would go teach in my classroom all day long, leaving my house at about 7:15 and not getting back until about 4 o'clock every single day. Then I would spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours working on my health and wellness business from about 4:30 to 6:30. Then I would have a little bit of time with my husband, and I would go to bed, and I would do it all over again. I did this on weekends as well. I taught online on weekends as well. Didn't teach obviously in my classroom on the weekends, but this was something that I spent a lot of time doing, but I had to visualize it because I had to add up, okay, how much can I make per class? And therefore, how many classes do I need to teach a day, a week, a month to make up the difference so that I could match and I could meet that $2,000 a month goal between my health and wellness business and my VIP Kid business, okay? So that was something that I very much visualized that. I worked my tail off for those 4 months. I was exhausted at the end of those 4 months, but I worked my tail off and I was so clear. I knew I could do it. I put the fear aside because I just got so very clear and visualized exactly what I needed to do in order to make that income, and I made it happen. So I want to encourage you when it comes to this step to do that exact same thing, no matter what the goal is. Maybe that's not the actual thing that you're working towards, but you can apply that same methodology towards whatever it is that you are wanting to achieve. Next, you are going to celebrate your progress. And you might be thinking, oh my gosh, but I can't celebrate it until it's done. No, every single month, I would literally drive to the bank. I would take out, using the example that I just gave you, I would take out $2,000 in cash so that I could physically see the money. And then I would drive, which was like 5 minutes down the road, I would drive to the credit union, which I had my loan out for my car, and I would physically hand over that $2,000 cash. I celebrated the heck out of that 5-minute drive, even though it was a little bit scary because I was like, oh my gosh, I have $2,000 in cash. Like, I don't want anybody to like stop me or rob me or, like whatever. Anyways, but I celebrated that so much. I kept track of it. I would tell my husband, I would tell family, like I was so proud of myself every single time. Those 4 times where I got to go to the bank and withdraw that. I even had a banker one of the times that it was like, you could just do like a money order or we could wire it and whatever. And I was like, no, I want to physically see this. I want to see my hard work. I want to hold that cash. I want to see I did this. So I celebrated myself in that way. But again, it comes to anything. If it's back to the health journey, maybe you buy yourself a new set of leggings for every 10 pounds you lose. Maybe you go have a favorite meal, whatever it is, whatever your goal, but you've got to celebrate it along the way. Otherwise, you get stuck in the grind and it is not enjoyable. And one thing that I'm very passionate about when it comes to working towards your goals is to make sure that you're enjoying the process. This next step, and step number 7, is also a huge favorite of mine. And this is surrounding yourself with positive and supportive people. So I can tell you, again, going back to the example of paying off my car, I told select people, because some people I already knew were going to be like, wow, $2,000 extra a month. There's no way you can do that. I did not need that kind of input. I did not need that kind of thought process or those opinions in my life when I knew I could do it. One surefire way that you are going to be fearful of success is by surrounding yourself with people who don't believe that you can do it. Of course you would be fearful. Or the people who seem supportive but say things like, well, be careful. I don't want you to get your hopes up. No. We are not here for that. So be very mindful when it comes to some of these goals, who it is that you share it with. I look for people that I know are going to support me and aren't going to say those little comments that are meant to be helpful, but really are like a backhanded way of like showing that they doubt me, right? So surround yourself with people who believe in you. Surround yourself with people who are doing the same thing that you are. Going back to the weight loss example, if you're in the process of trying to lose weight, spend time with other people who are also mindful of their eating, who are also working towards losing weight, who are also going to the gym and who prioritize their health on a daily basis. You're gonna see way more success with those sorts of people than you are if you keep spending time with the people who hit the drive-thrus and hit the buffet every other day, right? I literally run a health and wellness business for women. I know this and I see this firsthand, and I'm so passionate about my private wellness community that I offer to support women on their goals, whatever they might be. Not everyone is in weight loss. I'm currently pregnant and I'm certainly not working towards weight loss right now. I am working towards living a happy and a healthy life, but I can absolutely still be supportive of someone who comes along and is working towards losing weight or is working towards achieving whatever those health goals might be. I've been here for 6.5 years on my own personal journey, and I'm confident that I can help others, and therefore I provide a supportive community. It is private, it is exclusive, and it is 100% only allowed to be supportive. I do not allow negativity or even whining and complaining about things. And if people do try to post something that's a little bit more negative, like about themselves, I will always spin it and I will cheer them on and I will help them celebrate themselves, because that is such a big piece. But surrounding yourself with people who get it is going to be so crucial in this. So this next one kind of goes along with that, but tip number 8 is seek professional help if you need it. So if it's coming to the paying off the car or buying a car goal, maybe you need somebody who's really good with budgeting. Maybe you need somebody who can look at your budget and see where you can cut some costs and can help support you in that way, right? If you are someone who's on your health journey, hello, that is literally what I do and what I have done for the last 6.5 years. I am a professional when it comes to that area. That's what I do. Seek help, seek that support. There is no shame in investing in yourself. There is no shame in investing in the things that you say and that you claim matter and are important to you. I can tell you right now that I absolutely have paid for courses over the past in areas of things that I would love to know more about. And I want to support someone who has taken the time to learn, to educate themselves, and now create a product that I can use to help me and to move forward towards my goals. One great example of this is I am somebody who I'm very interested in creating a blog and creating a website and doing all of those things so that I can further market one of the endeavors that I'm working towards. So I invested in a blogging course to literally help me learn how to do that and best practices to do that by someone who has come before me and has been very, very successful, but is also very experienced in that area. I have no shame in that. We go to college, we literally pay to go to college to have experts teach us things that we want to know more about. This is literally no different. Even though it may not be college that you're paying for, investing in yourself is never going to be a mistake or something that you would regret unless you just waste your time with it. But if you are serious about it, make sure to do your research, make sure this is something that you are serious about, and then be willing to invest if that is something that you feel is necessary. Tip number 9 is pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory, but so incredibly important, and that is practicing self-compassion. Now, I do have other videos here on my channel. I have a little spin-off that I have created and a platform that I now have called Embracing Grace, and we have already gone through a self-compassion journaling guide that I did back in January. So I will link that video below. It comes with an entire journaling guide, 25 journal prompts that you can absolutely dive into and really work towards giving yourself more self-compassion. But for the sake of this video, this is something that you've got to give yourself a little bit of grace. You cannot be so hard on yourself. Just because you don't see success doesn't mean you're a failure. And I know I kind of correlated that earlier in the video, but that's not the truth. You working towards something is progress. You showing up for something is progress. You've got to be more compassionate towards yourself. If you're a parent or if you have, nieces or nephews or grandchildren or you work with children, you would never tell that child that they're a failure if they studied towards a spelling test but still only got a 75%. You would say, hey, you made progress. I saw how hard you worked. Nothing can take away the hard work that you put in. You still showed up, and that is something to be proud of. You've got to give yourself that same self-compassion and that same love. And my final tip number 10, is you've got to take action despite the fear. And this is probably the hardest one, and it's easier said than done tip that I have. Fear gets in our way so often. Fear got in my way from creating my YouTube channel for over 2 years. I literally owned the camera that I'm recording on right now for months before I ever actually set it up and recorded a video. That's crazy. I let fear hold me back. But it wasn't until I actually went back to and I utilized tip number 7, which is surrounding yourself with supportive people. I had disclosed to a friend that I had bought a camera and that I wanted to start a YouTube channel. And she was like, that's an incredible idea. Wait, you have a camera? And I was like, yeah. I was like, it's a really nice one. And she was like, you have a camera and you haven't started your YouTube channel? And I was like, I know. And she was like, why? And I literally did not have an answer for her because it was fear. Fear held me back. Once I finally got my first video up and then my next video and then my next video and then my next video, it got easier. And this feels like second nature to me now. But when I first started, I had so many thoughts and so much false narrative in my mind that I was going to fail or that I was going to succeed. And what it really came down to is I realized I was actually afraid that I would do well. I was afraid that my channel would do well and that people would resonate with what I was going to say, but that I wouldn't be able to keep up. And in a sense, I have really struggled to put as many videos out as I would like to put out, but I keep reminding myself that that's okay. Showing up and putting something out as much as I can is better than not showing up at all, than those 2 years that I wanted to do it but didn't do anything about it. So plus, those of you that are here and that have subscribed, you are such an incredible community and you are so supportive and I appreciate that so very much. So that's definitely helped too. I know there are some that definitely are like, where's your video? I'm looking forward to, this video or that video. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, it's coming, I promise. But I'm still showing up. And so I had to let that fear go. And thankfully, through some of these other tips, I finally did that. So this is me encouraging you here and now. It's time to let that fear fade away. It's still going to be there. I promise you. It will still be in the back of your mind, but go ahead and take some action. Go ahead and do something because I promise you something is always better than nothing. And you're going to feel so proud and excited. You're going to celebrate yourself whenever you do. All right, and those are your 10 tips to battle the fear of success. Again, whether you feel like you are someone who fears success or if you still think maybe you're someone who is afraid of failure, I hope that this video either way helped you and those 10 tips helped you be able to feel like you can finally take some action again. You can finally battle that fear and you can finally put some of that behind you. It is absolutely easier said than done, but I know that if you can go for it, if you can try, you're going to feel so proud and so excited. And more than anything, please celebrate yourself along the way. I would love to know what your goal is here in the comments and how you're going to work towards it. I would love to know if you are now realizing you are someone who is fearful of success like I was and have been, and honestly probably still am. I would love to know if you're resonating with that. And if so, which of these tips stuck out to you the most that you think would be the most beneficial for you as you move forward towards your goals? So thank you so much for being here. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Would love to see you back here in future videos. And if you have any questions or comments or anything at all, please put those in the comments below as well. So thank you, and we will see you in my next video. See ya.